Hi, everyone. Angela Alston with Angela Alston Astrology. Welcome. Today, we're going to be talking about Venus in Leo retrograde. Um, Venus retrogrades about every 18 months. Right now, it's retrograding in Leo. It started on July 22nd, and it's going to be going retrograde until September 3rd, although the shadow period is longer than that, 40-ish days. And the shadow of Venus retrograde started, let's say, about June 19th, and that'll be going until about October 7th. So this gives us kind of a nice stretch of time to really dive into these lessons that Venus in retrograde is offering us, and these opportunities. Venus retrogrades in only 5 signs. That is, I think, Gemini, Capricorn, early Aquarius, Leo, into early Virgo, but not this time. This retrograde is going to be between the Leo 28 to 29 to Leo 12, and then back through again. So if you have any natal planets that fall between Leo 12 to 28, they'll get hit 3 times. So Venus usually kind of skirts right along rather quickly. But this time it's more of a sustained lesson in what these Venusian themes might be bringing up for you. And then just to finish out, the other 2 signs that Venus retrogrades in are Aries, and then late Libra, late Libra, Scorpio. And there's a couple points that I'd like to highlight, and that is, if you are born with Venus retrograde natally, then this period might be a little more resonant for you. It might kind of hit a little differently. And if you have Leo on any of the angles, particularly the ascendant and 10th house, but really any of the angles, whether it's the ascendant, the descendant, IC or MC, you'll feel potentially the Leo in retro Venus. Let me say that again, Venus in Leo retrograde. And particularly the ascendant, folks who have the ascendant on the sign that Venus is retrograding through, I can describe this as sort of a watershed period in their lives. There's a before and an after, and it can be very powerful. Because Venus, if you think of the things that Venus traditionally rules, it's what you value. It is your romantic relationships and your relationships of all kinds. It's your social contract, your aesthetics, and sometimes your money. And so Venus retrograde right now, and it goes in these 8-year cycles, which is so fascinating. And so the last time Venus was retrograde in Leo would have been 2015. Before that, 2007. Before that, 1999, 1991. And for me, I'll just kind of share with you, I have Leo on my descendant. And when Venus in Leo has retrograded, they have been periods of initiation for me. Absolutely before and after watershed moments in my life. For example, 1991, I had my first love affair. I had no idea that you could feel this way about another human being. It was absolutely transformative. And it was an initiation into womanhood in a way. 1999, fast forward, and I had my first heartbreak, my first very serious, absolutely devastating, had no idea that I could hurt this badly. Heartbreak in 1999. 2007, I got engaged, to the love of my life. And that was an initiation into a new way of being in the world, a commitment to be a married woman in the world, a new orientation. There's a before and then an after. And then 2015, I became sober. And that was a commitment to myself, to my vitality, to my being, to my existence in a way that I had never committed to myself. So each one of those periods brought in an initiation into a new way of living in the world, quite literally. It was absolutely fascinating when I was going over this the other night. I had never put it together. Sometimes you don't. 8 years apart is kind of long enough to lose the thread. And so one of the things that I invite you to do is to sit down and look at those times in your life, to pick up those threads, particularly if you have Leo on the ascendant, or if you were born with Venus retrograde, or even if you have natal planets in Leo, because they're going to be hit 3 times during this period. And so you'll really have an opportunity to learn what Venus and Leo has for you. One of the things that I think is so powerful about Venus retrograde period is that it really gives you the permission to change your mind, right? And depending on what that means, the permission to change your mind around how you look, how you present in the world, around the kind of art that you're making, the people that you're surrounding yourself with, where you live, your values, how you make your money, right? It gives you an opportunity to sort of look back, do a retrospective, and pivot. Sometimes you need a good pivot in life. It's easy to kind of be going down a certain path in a way that served you at one time and may not serve you anymore. 2 caveats with Venus retrograde. And one is, I would encourage you not to get involved in a big financial entanglement at this time. Venus does rule money, but when things are retrograde, sometimes the shadow side comes out. It's acting in a way that's a little bit antithesis to how it operates normally. And in some ways, in some areas, that can be really fruitful, really powerful, actually. With money, not so much. You always want money to be growing, right? And then the other caveat is sometimes Venus retrograde periods are called the breakup seasons, and there's good reason for that. It's a time when scandal can happen, when decisions that you have made in the past, perhaps not the best decisions, can come to light. And it's a time where, well, I'll just be quite frank. Venus, when Venus is at its absolute best, rules the finer things in life. But when Venus is retrograde, it can be a real bitch. There's a side to Venus which is petty and vengeful and revengeful. It can really make you show your ass. So you want to kind of watch your P's and Q's during this time. And with that, let's take a look. Let's throw the real-time clock up and take a look and see where Venus is going to be falling in your chart. I'm looking at a whole house orientation here, which is good for horoscopes. And if you are tuning in and you're interested, you want to look at what your rising sign is for horoscopes. That's when they kind of align to the areas of your life a little bit better. So if your rising is Aries, Venus is going to be going through the 5th house of sex, right? The 6th house, the 5th house of dating, of fun, of creativity, and also of gambling and of the arts. And so this is a great time, particularly if you are an artist, to be looking at some of the work that you've been creating lately, and question it. Do you want to continue in this vein, or is it time to kind of shake things up a bit? Is it time to challenge yourself and to kind of think outside of whatever your box might be? Venus going through the 5th is usually a lot of good fun, except when it isn't, right? And so we have Taurus on the ascendant. Venus is going to be going through your 4th house, and this can sometimes be as literal as moving again. And when I say again, it can be moving back home, moving back to a place you've already been. It doesn't have to be. It can also be redoing some of the decor in your home. Looking at your house and your with new eyes. It can be so easy to have furniture that just kind of goes the distance with you. And Venus in retrograde in your 4th can be an opportunity to kind of shake things up again a bit in your home space. On the ascendant, if your ascendant is Gemini, Venus is going to be going through your 3rd house. And this is awesome for writers because it gives you a real invitation to revisit some of your thoughts, literally what you have written, some of your communications. Are they what you want them to be? Also opens up some opportunities to sort of revisit your relationships with your neighbors and your siblings. Siblings relationships can be so complex and so fraught. And this is an opportunity not to dredge up old shit, but to perhaps do some healing in that space in your life. Cancer on the ascendant, Venus is going to be going through your 2nd house. And this is there's 2 things about this that I want to say. One, watch your finances. The caveat that I gave earlier is very relevant to you. Try not to get in any big financial situations during this retrograde and shadow period. But a little bit brighter note, Venus through your 2nd house gives you the opportunity to really reevaluate how you feel about yourself, your self-worth, what you value in your life in terms of who you are. And if you have issues, and don't we all, with self-esteem and those voices, those narratives that run through your head, this is an opportunity to examine those and to create new space in your brain. especially when it comes to how you see yourself in the world. Leo, if Leo is on your ascendant, this has an opportunity to be a really impactful period for you. You might even see it as kind of a before and after. One door opens and another door closes. It is a time where something very important and integral to you might change, or it could be lighter than that. It could be you might decide to try a new beauty regime, get your hair cut, get some new threads, just sort of change how you appear in the world. The first house, I mean, all of the houses are such huge mansions, but the first house in particular has to do with your vitality, your health, your radiance, your appearance. So this is a really exciting time, I hope, for Leo rising. Virgo rising, Venus in Leo is going to be going through your 12th house. And this is an opportunity for you to perhaps revisit some of your ghosts, to look and see with a bright light and a strong heart what frightens you, what is there in your basement, in your subconscious, which can undermine you. Venus being a benefic, going through this house offers you some salve, some healing, but it's very personal and it's very deep. And so this is an opportunity also. I have Venus 12th house natally, and I've always found it very ghostly in that I've been able in different periods of my life to feel very close to those who have passed, those who've died. And so if there's anybody that you're really yearning for, that you miss, this is a period where you might be able to connect with them in a heart channel. Libra, Venus is going to be retrograding through your 11th house. This is the perfect time to make sure your squad is who you want to be around, who reflects you, who gives to you. Friends can have a way of sometimes outlasting their usefulness or their value in your life. And so this you might find as a time when some of your friendships change. Perhaps they deepen, but you might also find that, perhaps some friendships, they go away during this period. And the message here is that's okay. That's okay. Sometimes it's really important to refresh who you surround yourself with and make sure that the people who are around you are the people who value you as much as you should be valued. Scorpio on the ascendant, Venus is going to be going through your 10th house. This is a really fertile time to look and see if your career path is aligned with what you actually want to be doing in your life. And it's also, the caveat comes up here for Scorpio rising. This is a time when scandal can come to light. So let's hope that you've watched your P's and Q's and that doesn't happen to you. But I really would invite Scorpio rising to look into their past in those 8-year increments and see what was going on in 2015, 2007, 1999, 1991, and see, because you might see that there are aspects of your career and of your public persona that started during those periods, and you might not even realize it. And in fact, during this period, you may go back and rethread and bring some of those things that were begun 8 years ago, 16, 23, 32 years ago, back into play for you. Sagittarius. And here we have Venus going through your 9th house. And this is a great opportunity for you to go back to places that you've traveled to in the past, if that's something that you like to do. But more than actually physically leaving, although 9th is always up for a great journey, Venus going through your 9th house gives you the opportunity to evaluate your current belief systems, right? That can be your politics, that can be your religion, that can be whatever frameworks, conceptual frameworks and philosophies, because sometimes those can get outdated in our lives. We could have absorbed them and lived with them for so long, but they're not actually where we're at anymore. And so Venus going through your 9th house gives you an opportunity to really interrogate and perhaps let go of some outworn ideas, whether they be political, religious, spiritual, what have you. That can be an incredibly rich and fertile experience, particularly for artists. Well, for anybody, truly. Okay, moving on to Capricorn. Capricorn has Venus going through your 8th house. And this is an opportunity for you to re-examine the soul contracts that you hold with others, those sort of karmic ties that you have, and to see if they're still relevant, and to see if, perhaps you've paid that pound of flesh. Venus going through your 8th can be about necessary endings. The 8th house is symbolic of deaths. And so many things in life need to die so that new space can be created. And so this is a time that might be sensitive. The 8th house is what happens behind closed doors, that doesn't have aspect to the ascendant. It's a dark house, but Venus going through there will give you an opportunity to really evaluate who you owe what to at this point in your life. And there might be some loss involved with 8th house. There often is. Aquarius. Venus is going to be visiting your 7th house. 7th house traditionally rules relationships, also business relationships. Venus has a lot to say about business. It's not always thought of as such, but it's very much true. Venus rules Taurus and Libra. But I had shared my personal story with Leo going through, retrograding through my 7th house, and these were incredible initiation periods for me around love, kind of the traditional good old-fashioned love of others, loss of love, commitment to a love, and really finding a deep love of myself when Venus was transiting my 7th house. Incredibly powerful periods for me, and I hope they are for you too. And Pisces, we have Venus going through your 6th house. And this you know, all of the houses are so capacious, but sixth house has a lot in it around service. Is the way you're spending your time, your daily trudge, your day to day, what you give your hours in service of, is that in alignment with what your soul needs, with what your heart needs? And to be frank, it's also going to be a time potentially to revisit some health issues. The sixth house is the house of disease. Venus going through here and then back again. You know, what you might have thought was over might be coming back again. It gives you an opportunity to look at your patterns around how you take care of yourself on a very literal level, and your animals and your job, right? It's not the same as the 10th house, where it's your career and it's your profession and it's your public. Sixth house is really more about the day-to-day, where you spend your hours and how you spend your hours. And is that really what you want to be doing? Because remember, more than anything else, well, not more than anything else, but Venus retrograde gives you the permission to change your mind, to pivot, to let go of old things and to try new things on. And it invites a kind of reflection, you know, depending on where it falls in your house. And then another thing I want to say before I leave is that you'll also really want to look at what houses in your natal chart are ruled by Venus. What's on the cusp of what is Taurus? What's Libra? And where in your chart is your natal Venus? Because all of these things are going to be coming together potentially during this next 40 days and 40 nights, and a little bit longer because of the shadow. Well, thank you so much for joining me this evening. I hope you found some value in this. If so, please like my channel and subscribe. It'll help it grow. I really appreciate you. And good night.